Hi, it's Mike with Self-Sufficient Bees. Let's get into it. I follow that guy on YouTube. Self-Sufficient Bee, great guy, great gardening videos. We're heading over with Bessie. Bessie's the name we have for our yard cart here. We got the smoker, we got the fume boards, which is just a board with a piece of felt stapled to it. We're going to squirt some bee go on that, and that's going to drive the bees down out of the honey supers. We're going to load them into Bessie and bring them back to the garage for extraction. So let's roll over and start. So you can see all these colonies over here have brood area down here. This strip is the honey queen excluder. Almost called it a honey excluder, or what some people do call it, but it's not ever been a problem for us. That's nothing more than a wire screen that's too large. The spaces between the wires are too small for the queen to pass through, but the worker bees can come and go. And then up here are the boxes we're collecting the honey in. These are called the honey supers. So some of these, probably most of these, actually have a front entrance above that I drilled, so that makes it easier access for the bees to come and go directly from the honey supers if they want to do that. I don't know how much they use the upper entrances, but if nothing else, it's good for ventilation. So we're going to go ahead and smoke these guys, let them know we're here. And open them up. So you can see I've worked my bees, and I do always put a veil on. A lot of sensitive stuff up here, eyes, nose, ears, lips. I work routinely in a t-shirt and shorts. It's going to be close to 100 degrees today, which is what we want for the honey to flow very smoothly, but I'm not wearing a full bee suit. I'm not wearing gloves. And you can see, you know, the bees are not attacking us. They're not defending the colony. So we'll give them a little bit more smoke here at the top. Just let these guys up top know. So what the smoke does to calm the bees is covers up the bees' ability to communicate. So bees communicate mostly with pheromones, which is like perfume. That's the closest thing I think humans could get to it. They communicate with a chemical substance through the air. So alarm pheromone, which is the bees' warning to other bees that something is wrong and they need to defend the colony. It gets covered up when you smoke the bees. So it basically blocks the bees' ability to communicate the alarm. So that we don't spill too many bees on the ground, we're going to shake these off right back into the colony. And you can see bees flying around, but they're not attacking me. Of course, you always open your bees on, you know, nice sunny days, never at night, never in inclement weather. If you look down inside here, you can see the foragers are tending the combs. The combs are all sealed up. That's all capped honey in there. These top two boxes should have nothing in them but honey. We're going to go ahead and put the fume boards on and drive those bees back down so that there's no bees in them. So this is a product called Bee Go. Honestly, it smells terrible. It smells like vomit, but it's very effective for driving the bees out. You don't need very much. I got this piece of, so you're just putting it on there, and the bees, to get away from it, will go down through here, through the excluder, and congregate. You'll probably see a bunch of them come out the front and hang out because they don't like the smell. It dissipates. We take this, we don't ever leave this on after the boxes are on. It's just to extract the honey, but it's a very effective product, and this will last for a decade probably, so you don't use very much. So we'll go ahead, while that's going, we'll go ahead and do the next one. No honey supers on this one. This is a little swarm that's still building up from the spring, so we didn't put a box on there. But you can see this one, there's two brood boxes, we got the excluder, and this is the first time on any of our colonies that we've had 4 supers on one colony. And we've done it on this one, that one, and there's another one that's got at least 3. So it was a great honey year. The rain held off at the perfect time when black locust and tulip poplar were blooming this spring. Usually we get a great black locust bloom, but then we get heavy rains and it all gets washed out. We don't get any benefit from that. So bees did their thing. I added boxes on April 15th this year, tax day, which is 15 days earlier than I normally put a box on. I usually do that May 1st. And the bees just kept filling them and filling them and filling them. I kept giving them boxes to fill. So they wanted to do it, so we let them do it. Now I can already smell the alarm pheromone. To us, it's a substance called isopenyl acetate, which you and I know is banana oil. It's an overwhelming smell of bananas. In fact, if you crumple up a banana peel out here, the bees interpret that as alarm pheromone because it's the same substance chemically. So you can see they're not flying much. We're just letting them know we're here. A little puff in the entrance there. That's all you gotta do. And then pop these guys open. Sorry, girls. You can see actually built comb on the underside of the cover here. So again, we'll knock them down, so less risk of having bees on the ground here and stepping on them. And then we'll go ahead and get another fume board put on here. You can buy fume boards. Like I said, I just use an old inner cover that I stapled a piece of felt that I got at the fabric store. A half yard of felt, just white, $3.99 a yard felt. Whew, that stuff smells very bad. And then we'll go ahead and do the next one. We have three to do. 3 fume boards we can use at a time. So by the time we get this one on, that one might be ready to start pulling boxes off. Good morning, girls. Here. One thing you do got to keep an eye on is bees do not like contrast. So they don't like your hairline, you know, your skin and your dark colored hair. They really would not like dark socks. That's why I took my wristwatch off, because I always get stung. If I'm going to get stung, I'm going to get stung right where my wristwatch is, because I have a black band on my wristwatch, and the bees don't like that contrast. So that's why beekeepers wear white, because predators of bees typically are black bears, raccoons, skunks like that. They have dark fur, and bees are you know, evolved to deal with. They don't like that. So. This is a proper fume board that I bought. It's nothing more than a frame, a metal piece of metal, and a piece of felt in there. So no different than the inner cover. Way easier to just make them yourself. You can just use a piece of plywood or something else too, but you just need something to hold the felt in place. All right, let's check on these and be pulling some boxes. I'll put that stuff down because you do not want that to spill inside the cart here. Okay, take that off. No bees in the box now, which is good, but as that smell starts to dissipate, they're going to come right back. So we got to get these covered up. All right. So we're gonna. These are very heavy. These are. Oh, this is where you get what they call beekeepers back. All right. So you cover them up. And then we'll put these on. Dry those bees down a little bit. See how we're doing over here. Yeah, that box is empty. That's good. Take this one off. I don't want that to happen. Checked on these previously, and all these boxes are full and capped, so I'm not going to be dealing with any partially capped frames. You have to worry about the humidity or whether the bees have dried it down to the right moisture level. All right, so we're going to drive these over to the garage and then come back and get more. Keep the bees off. You always got to keep the honey covered so that bees don't come in, fly into the boxes. Then we take them into the garage. We do have a setup this year where I rigged up a little conical bee escape out of one of the windows of the garage, so the bees go towards the light and then they can come back out, but they can't come back in. But if you leave your honey exposed, you'll just draw millions of bees to your extraction operation, and then you're done, because they're going to steal all your honey back. All right. We'll do 3 or more.
I think 3 is good to start.
All right, that's good. You can see these
Grab a cover.
boxes. Before we close it out, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This box will actually hold 10 frames, but once the combs are drawn out, you drop them down to 9, space them out evenly, and the bees will draw the combs more deeply, and you'll actually get more honey on 9 than you would if you had the full 10 in there. So I'm going to close these up. Off you go. And we'll get some more. So we're going to pop this one off, and then you'll see the queen excluder down here. You probably get at least 50 pounds plus the weight of the box, so they're quite heavy. So this is the queen excluder here. I'll hold that up. You can see this hasn't been covered with burr comb or waxed too badly. That's pretty much normal. In fact, it might have looked like that when I put it on. Below here is where the queen is laying eggs. And there'll still be honey. Down here, all the honey, pollen, and everything else is for the bees to overwinter. So we got to make sure that they have enough to get over winter. But typically, they can overwinter in 2 boxes like this as long as you have a good amount of honey here. So we're going to go ahead and close these guys back up. Put the outer cover back on. Put our top cover retention device, very expensive piece of equipment. And we say thank you, girls. On to the next one. Over the years, we've learned the key to a less tiring honey extraction day is be efficient where you can be efficient. So what we're going to do, you always want to have something going on, not have equipment sitting there idle. By that I mean I'm going to take the fume board off this colony because it's not going to be used here anymore, and we're going to put it on the next colony over here and get those bees moving down while we harvest these. So this one you can see has 2 honey boxes on it, 2 supers. We're going to do the same thing, smoke them, give them a little puff, let them know we're here. Okay, rid of that. Up the top. That. Crack them open here gently because they don't like getting jarred out of that any more than we do. We're going to whack them, inner cover, shake them down into the box. And you can see there's a few on my leg here. They're just climbing, walking on me. They're not stinging me. And then we'll put the fume board on these guys. And they'll start going down. All right. That's good. Got 2 boxes to go on this one.
Dripping out the bottom.
Huh?
Dripping out the bottom.
I know. You can see if you want to, if the light's good here. Just pop one of these out and you can see what that looks like. Snow white combs there. All capped honey. And we'll take these over. Alright, so you can see here the fume board's driving the bees down and out of the colony, so a lot of the population of the colony is just hanging out on the front because they don't want to be in there with that smell. So once I pull this last box off and remove the excluder, I'm actually going to give them another box of frames with foundation in it, and then that'll give them some room and something to do to draw that foundation out and start putting away nectar for the remaining part of the summer and fall for their winter stores. So we're going to go ahead and brush the bees down a little bit, give them some smoke, let them know we're here. And then we're going to brush them down just to get them off out of the way so we don't squish anybody. You just, the It's a little gentle flicking motion. We're not scrubbing them off. Just like that. All right. Yep. There. All right. Getting a few stings here, but that's normal. So they're probably a little upset. So when you get stung, you just scrape the stinger out. And we'll go ahead and pull this last box off. But there's no bees in there, which is good. Coming over. And set them in. You can see this box has nothing but foundation in it, just a strip of beeswax wired in. And we're going to go ahead and put this on them so they have some room and they can all go back inside and enjoy the rest of their day. That, at some point, we're going to scrape that off and melt that wax down and process it into candles or something, but right now we'll just leave that on there for them and then put the cover back on and they can get back to their day. Excluder we just leave there, let the bees come off of that and go back in the colony and everybody will settle down. Not quite as many bees in here, but that was a very populous, very, very productive colony, so very happy with them. Excluder off. And we're going to put this back on. We don't have to give them, they have a third box already. These guys had only had 2. So we'll save the third box for one of these colonies. I typically, this time of year, you get an old hickory nut or something to prop the cover up on. For ventilation. Put that on. Beam board out of the way. Put your trusty rock back on top. Go to the next one. So one thing you might notice, of course, we got fencing around here. It goes around the entire garden now, not just the apiary. We have 3 individual bee yards here in the yard, and they all have electric fence around them because we do have a large population of black bears in this area, and they will, you cannot leave a colony of honeybees outside the fence for very long. They'll get tipped over, and then the bees will keep coming, or the bears will keep coming back over and over and over, and really, they'll destroy all your equipment. So don't let anybody tell you in bear country that you can somehow miraculously keep your colony safe without electric fencing. It's got to be electric. You don't need much of it, but it's got to work. So it's got to be on all the time, day, night, every day of the week, of course, all weather, 24/7. So on to the next one. All right, so guys, Danielle brought up a good point. Why do we remove the excluder every time? I should have brought one over here with me. The reason the excluder is useful is the queen cannot fit through these wires to come up into your honey supers and lay eggs. Obviously nobody wants their honey mixed with young bee larvae and eggs. So this grid here is spaced wide enough for the worker bees to come and go when they're bringing nectar from the plants in and storing it. But drones and queens, drones are male bees, and queens cannot fit through that. So in the winter, so we have how a honeybee colony is arranged is you've got all your eggs and pollen and young bees are being raised below the excluder in the lower boxes, and then the honey is always stored above. This is in a managed colony, and also if you had a colony in a wall or a tree, it's laid out the same way. Always down low is the brood and the pollen and the young bees being raised. Up high is where they store the pollen or the honey. And what happens is over the winter the bees slow down the brood rearing. As you go into winter in the cluster, bees don't hibernate. Italian honeybees don't hibernate. the cluster moves up during the winter into the honey. And the last thing you want to have happen is in the middle of winter, your bees move up through the honey, and the queen, the only non-replaceable bee in the entire colony over the winter, can't get through the excluder. And what happens is she gets left behind, she freezes to death because she's not being covered or fed or tended to, and the colony moves up. They have no queen and no hope of raising a queen in the summer, and the colony perishes. It's a 100% chance you're going to lose that colony if the queen's trapped below the excluder and there's not enough honey down there. You know, if the cluster moves up and leaves her behind, she's dead. So you have to remove your excluders, and you just leave them out. The bees will rob them out, which means get all the excess, any honey that's on them, the bees will collect and take back to the colony. And then the wax you can scrape off. You can put this thing inside of a solar melter if you have it, it'll clean all down, right down to the wires. So this guy here, this is his last year, falling apart. This is probably one of the original ones we started with. These are, I really like the wood framed ones over the plastic, but they have a lifetime like anything else. All that prying with the hive tool is hard on wood. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that and go on to the next one. All right, so you can see this colony here, this is a swarm that we captured. It has no honey boxes on it. And the bees up here, you can see them back and forth, back and forth. That's called washboarding. To my knowledge, nobody knows exactly why bees do that. It's been studied. You probably get a Nobel Prize or at least a PhD if you can figure out why bees do that. But probably, it looks to me, if you just judge based on the actions they're taking, it looks like they're cleaning, keeping things tidy. So
There's one on the right corner doing a dance.
I'll be waiting for the Nobel Prize Committee to be calling me since I just figured this out. No, not really. I'm not getting a Nobel for this. So same deal as before. This is going to be challenging because I'm lifting boxes, and I thought about this when I was putting this on, but it is what it is at this point. It's a very heavy box, and it's kind of like a upper body workout here. Just take your time and try not to use your back as much as possible because you do not want to sustain an injury. So we're going to smoke them, get a little puff of them over here. Same as the other. Crack these off. Over there. And a little bit. Got me around the shoulder. I think it's going to help to get this weight off of this. This hive stand needs to go. This hive stand is original. It's all pressure treated with bolts, but it needs to, it's too much weight. It's been here too long, so what we're going to do is use cinder blocks, which don't rot. And they can support an awful lot of weight. This, I don't trust anymore. I tend to beef it up in the back here with another block, just to give weight support in the middle, but you do not want, after the bees have worked all that time to fill up your honey supers, you do not want your boxes tipping over because your hive stand gave out. So I need to get to this. So, give them a little smoke. Alright guys, so we're all done pulling honey boxes. We got 17 full honey supers, which is actually 2 fewer than I thought we would have. But one had 2 boxes, 1 colony, had very few bees in it, and they didn't put away any. So I gave them 2 boxes, and they didn't use them. So we're, oh dear, we're down to 17 50-pound boxes of honey. So our work's just beginning. I'm going to show you now. So we're going to pull one by one, pull these frames up. What you do All right, that's all honey there. So we've kind of got this down to a science. So we take this and we use the extractor as an uncapping tub too. So we don't have a separate operation. It's requiring, you know, more cleanup later and another step. So this is an uncapping roller. We've tried the uncapping knife, the heated knife. That works well, but only when the honey sticks up off the frame, as it like here. But if you have a frame that has a divot in it, that uncapping knife won't get to it, and you have to use this anyway. This thing, from just looking at it, you can tell you just roll over the cappings, it punctures the cappings, and you put them down in the extractor. The extractor spins at a high rate of speed and throws the honey out. That's why it's got to be warm so the honey flows nicely. But we're going to go ahead and unroll this so you can see. You get a little bit less harvestable wax with this, but it leaves more comb here so the bees don't have to rebuild it all next year, which is more honey to be harvested. There's always a trade-off if you have the bees. If they have to build, the more comb they have to build, the more honey they have to use to build that comb, which means the less there is to harvest. So that's all we're going to do, just like that. Go to the other side. Do the same. You're just not trying to rip them, you're just trying to puncture a hole in them so the honey, when it spins, can get out. I'll show you another tool we use on the next frame. You just want to open up all the cells there. You can see it out on the edge. And then this guy goes down in there. This extractor, this is an 18 frame radial extractor. We have these little tie wraps on here to hold the frames in place so they don't pitch forward and, while we get them all loaded. So, over to the next one. You can see this is an uncapping fork. This is a very useful tool also, and you can just go down and do the same with this. This is what you use if you have those low-lying areas in the comb that, where the uncapping knife won't reach. But we don't use the knife anymore because it does cut off too much wax, and then you need to drain the wax, and then the bees have to rebuild all that wax next year. So this, it works very well too. And if you have a few cells that don't get open, you can just reach down and scratch them evenly. And that's it. That's how your honey gets uncapped. They do make machines that can do this. The machines have the disadvantage of they don't uncap every frame equally, so you still have to go over some of it by hand. But the cheapest machine I've seen is close to $1,000, so you don't generate near enough honey to justify a $1,000 machine that gets used once a year. Well, the extractor is pretty expensive, but you can't do it without the extractor on this scale. So, I mean, we're still a hobbyist scale, but close to 100 and whatever it is, 70 frames is too much to just scrape and let them hang somewhere. So we're going to go ahead and load this extractor up, and then we'll come back and we'll show you when we start it up, it starts spinning, and you'll see the honey start to come out of the gate down there. So we'll see you in a few. You don't sting me there, please.
No, she's on your ear.
All right. All right, guys, so got the extractor totally loaded. There's 18 full frames of honey that have all been uncapped, and we're getting ready to start her up. If you want to look in here, you can see what the frames look like. They're all locked in place. They're all fully loaded. So this sucker is heavy right now. So it's got 2 supers worth of frames and one in the extractor. So we're going to go ahead and close the lid and fire her up. You always start off slow, because if you go too fast, you'll actually throw the combs right out of the frames. So here we go. Honey Harvest 2021 underway. And then you'll see down here at the honey gate, the honey will start to flow out of there, go through the first course filter, and that begins the filtering process. So it never gets heated in any way. You can see the honey kind of just stare at the edge of the white basket in here. You can see the honey getting thrown out of the frames. I'll slow it down just a little bit. And here comes the honey out of the gate. And as the frames get unloaded, you can turn the speed up a little bit, and then what we will do is stop it and reverse it. The nice thing about using what we have here is a radial extractor is that it does both sides of the frames at the same time. So, but we do reverse it and make them go the other way because it gets a little bit more out in case some of the cells are at a different angle on the frames. So as the first bucket fills up, you can see Donnell will shut off the honey gate and swap it out with another bucket. The honey's coming out of the extractor faster than it's passing through the filter. The coarse filters, this is getting out your wax and your bee's knees and your wings and things like that. So they go through a coarse, a medium, and a fine filter, and then it's just ready for bottling. So over here we've got the filtering set up, just a thing banged together out of some 2x4s, holds the bucket with the coarse filter on top, and that flows down into the second bucket that has the medium filter in it. That bucket, it just has a giant hole in the bottom. The bucket won't hold anything. And that goes through, you can see the hole down in there, that goes through to the fine filter, and the fine filter with the honey gate on the bottom there becomes the bottling bucket. Alright guys, so the tractor's completed its run. You can see now that's what's left. So the frames are still sticky, but there's no honey left in almost all of the cells, or almost all spun out. So the nice thing about what the bees do for us is they actually draw the cells out at a slight upward angle, so that when they put the honey in there, if it was level, perpendicular to the ground, parallel to the ground, the nectar would just, because it's so watery, would just ooze out. So they do have it at a slight downward angle, the cells. And when you load them in the extractor, it's using that angle in the cells to throw the honey out. So the frames are done. 2 boxes down and about 16, 17 more boxes to go.